Some splashes on the side, so feel free to pass that round and get an idea. I've also got a bit of a before and an after on the road wheels, so I've done used pigments and effects on these wheels, and this is we'll have a go on this one, and I'll show you exactly what I did to that. I'll do to that what I did to that yesterday or day before. So there you go, you can have a bit of a peek, and the same goes with this running gear. So pigments are, have been around for tens of thousands of years, and it's pretty much how they used to paint on the caves, mix the pigments up with waters and whatnot, make it a paste and use it as a paint. Most of the pigments these days are derived through a chemical process. Is everyone familiar with pigments, or am I sort of just rushing over this a little bit too hard? So they're a powder, like a weathering powder. Feel free to pass it around, don't spill it whatever you do because they'll kick me out of the club. So what it does, because it's got a bit of a grain and a texture, it allows us to get some of these realistic, gritty, voluminous effects. People have been getting those effects for a long time by using pastel chalks that you get from an art shop, and you used to get the chalk stick and grind it down, scratch it down. It's essentially the same. Same concept, it's just obviously these are now commercially available. I think it's a lot finer, the pigment as well. Yeah, of course, please. Yeah, if anyone's got questions, please ask away. So.
The pigments are powder.
It's a powder, yep.
Powder.
Yep.
How do you make it stick?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Yep. So what I've got, like the pigments, there's helps if you look at the it's yeah, right. I just got that. So there's a few companies that sell these things commercially. There's Ammo, there's AK, Vallejo are doing them now, Humbrol do them, Wild Art. Like it's starting to become a real thing. It was a bit of a you can see the effects on the back there too, just from building up. It's one of those things that's becoming very popular now to try and make things realistic and weather things up, and which I guess is a good thing. In terms of colour ranges, you've got anything from light rusts, light, medium, dark rust, track rust, gun metals, which I'll show you really easy thing to use the gunmetal for, and it'll change your armour. Well, it'll change your modelling very quickly because it's very simple. Then you've got all your earthy tones like Europe earth, dark earth, Russian soil. I mean, you name it. It's like a colour palette, right? So with the powder doesn't work by itself because it's literally just a powder, so it's not going to stick to the model. So we have to find a way to make it adhere and stick. Has everyone seen these? So we have to find a way to make this stuff stick because if we just put the powder in, it'll literally just fall off. You can dust with the powder, and you will get something left behind.
This on pigment powders.
So like I can use that as just like a dust. Which looks kind of cool, but if you handle that, touch it over time, it'll literally just come off on your fingers. So what we need to do is fix it with something. Now all the pigment companies sell this pigment fixer, which now I'm showing everyone this. I don't actually use it because I hate it, because it sets the pigment like a rock. So once it's down and on, you're not going to move it, you're not going to change it, and it also tweaks the colour quite considerably. So if we put like that Europe Earth colour that I dusted on here, if we set that with pigment, you'll find it will go very dark when it dries. So it's very unpredictable. And so like with your modelling, I think that the best thing for your modelling is to have some sort of predictability with what you're doing so you don't get any surprises the next day. So that's why I don't use that. I'm showing you guys that because that's what they sell it, and that's they say when it says use your pigment fixer. The only time I would use this is if I treated the model like this in this dusty way. You can put it in the airbrush and give it a light spray and that'll just lock everything in. But you could do that with like a varnish as well if you wanted to. But just be mindful, these pigment powders literally will just suck paint into them, like they're just quite absorbent. So what we do to set, okay, we need to bulk these things out and set them to the model. So what we do, we mix them with enamel paint. I'm using enamels from the same range that these pigments are coming from. So one's a powder, one's a liquid enamel. But what this, you could use any sort of enamel if you had, any in your stash. That's fine. These have a little bit of a grain in them, so they'll help enhance the effects that you're doing. But it really doesn't matter. It's all about, they're all going to be use the white spirit, which is kind of very dirty at the moment, don't worry, but that should be clear, a nice white spirit. This is what we're going to use to manipulate it. And this is what we use to hold it together, the enamel. Is everyone following, or am I going a bit quick?
No, that enamel is, so in terms of the colour,
enamel is liquid.
The colour that you need to use for that,
Okay.
you need to match it to the pigment colour?
No. So you're going to get the best and most realistic results when you start using different colours.
Yeah.
So if I use Europerth pigment with Europerth like colour thing, it's just going to be very monotone. So you'll find the best results you'll get are when you start blending at least 2 pigment colours or 3 pigment colours together, and then start introducing some of these lighter, darker tones. It just makes it more realistic, because life is like that. So I'll try and move through it now. Everyone, this is some plaster. I'll show you this a little bit later. We can mix plaster in with this stuff to bulk it out as well. So if you wanted to start, building up like chunks of mud and things on the back, if you mix it, and you can mix soil, you can mix gravel, you name it, anything to bulk it out. And the more real textures you get in your mix, the more realistic it's going to look, because it will be real. So just tell, if I've got to hurry up, just tell me.
No, sorry.
No, I just don't know. I sort of lose track of time.
I wasn't giving you the
Those things were interesting.
Which one, sorry?
With the bag of white powder.
Ah, yeah. Well,
So the pigment is powdered, the effects as well.
yeah, don't get correct. It's an enamel. Don't get too wound up on the word effects on there. It's essentially just an enamel paint.
No, but I mean, that's, when you're on the bench, that's the way you tell the difference.
Yeah.
That's powder, that's
The eyes are buggered, so I'd usually pick it up, shake it. And if you can feel the powder, you know it's powder. If you can feel the solution, it's the thing.
Jesus.
All right, so I'll quickly.
So who do you get to build your models in?
does it taste different too?
Gary? Taking the piss out of someone.
The Helen School of Model.
Just one other, just a different perspective from what Clayton's talking about is that I've only started using pigments on my aircraft fairly recently. So like the last, in fact, it's fair to say that the 2 models I've got here today, I've used, that's the first time I've used pigments, tried to use them seriously. And obviously on an aircraft, you're not trying to bulk it up, you're not trying to lay on mud, you're not trying to do anything like that. So it's what Clayton said before was don't use that pigment fixer, don't just brush it on. That's exactly what I that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a look at the P40 as an example, on the tyres, that's actually pigment. So it's European dust. I just brushed it on, and then I used the AK Interactive pigment fixer, and I just touched it lightly with a brush once I had the dust on there, and it kind of spread out, and it set, once it dried after about 10 minutes, it looks like it does there now, right? It looks like dust, and it won't move. As Clayton said, it fixes it, like it won't rub off. And the other place that I used it was on the exhausts. So I painted them black, and then I used different shades of rust to actually just put the pigments on, use the fixer, fix it, then put another different colour on, right? So, because you want that rough, sort of, powdery look on the exhaust, like, so...
This is a great way to get good exhaust, good tracks, good...
Yeah, so...
It's earthy, yeah.
I didn't mix it with enamel paint, because I specifically didn't want to bulk it up, which is what Clayton was kind of more doing on his armour, I think.
Well, no, it's the enamel paint won't bulk it up. What mixing the enamels with the powder will do is give you working time. Right. So we will do this, and then you can come back the next day with a makeup sponge and start to correct things, and it'll give you time to mill. If you do that pigment fix, you'll go back the next day you're gone.
That's kind of the way I want. For what I was using it for on my tyres and that, I didn't want to make it look like it was mud. I just wanted it to look like it was a bit of.
Yeah, well, this is still this. We just thin it down more.
Okay, so
But if we looked at our tyres and thought, oh, it was a bit heavy, we can easily just rub it with a makeup sponge and we'll get off. If you've used Fixer, there's no getting it off there. This will eventually set, but it gives us a window.
okay. Oh well, maybe I'll try
Do
that
you
next
wear a
time.
disguise when you go in the store and bubble?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So, what am I doing? Okay, so it's really this simple. We'll get our wheel. I've got two colours of pigment here. One's Russian Earth, one's Europe Earth. It's just a dry brush, and I'm literally just stippling this over the tyre. It's real messy, so get a tray. You do not want to get this on your carpet or anything because there's just there's no turning back.
If you do it on a piece of just like A4 paper, like printer paper, it'll fall on it, and then when you finish, you just put a crease in it, and then you can pour
Well,
it in the bottle.
that's why I reuse the box. Yeah, just kind of
I
tip
like
it
the
in.
white paper because you can see it, and you can crease it, and then it just like the front, and you can put it back in. That's if you're a real tight ass.
I just needed something with sides to try and catch it.
Do you have like a jar where you put all the shades into it?
Yeah, I should. That's always the plan.
Just to mix up.
So literally, that's all we need to do with our pigments, right? It's literally just. But if I blew on that or tipped it up, the majority of it would probably fall off from there, right? So we've got to think about gravity as well. The white spirit, I've just put in a little beer lid here, just so it's manageable and I don't taint this. And all I'm going to do is just load my brush up with a bit of the enamel, like it's really quite thinned out. And then if you just literally just touch it on, let the capillary action of the paint just sort of suck and go where it wants to go. I'm trying not to disturb the little mounds and natural things that I've made because we want to try and keep them. And you got to remember too, with these effects, it's going to be best. Layered effects are always the best. So we'll do this once. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow, and then just build on it. You know, you're never going to get it right the first go you do it. Well, I shouldn't say never. Rarely. So you want it to be random, right? You find all that enamel going in through the tread pattern. You've got to think about gravity when you're doing this too, because if we've got the wheel like that, everything's going to settle down in the bottom. We want to try and keep everything upright.
So you don't want to do it in your Dremel
You can try. So that's pretty much it. Right, so we need to, I would let that dry for 24 hours. Then I'd get my makeup sponge, which is all I've done with this one, and literally just worked around the outside because the tire's rolling on the thing. Then if you work from your centre out, just softly. Sorry?
You did that salt first.
No. No, you can. I mean, you could use a cotton bud and dip it in, but it'll just take more off. So you don't want to take off too much. You just want to try and feather it all out and make it work nicely. Yeah.
Did you mix the powder with the enamel there, or
No,
was the
so
powder, you haven't put the powder on yet?
The powder was on the wheel.
Ah, right.
So and literally, I mean, I'll do it with this one.
Okay, so
So it's exactly the same. Exactly the same. The dry powder goes on.
right.
Just mixing the tones. It's the more tones you can kind of get in there without going overboard, but sort of 2 or 3 tones. The more interesting it's going to be. But also be mindful of where your vehicle or your plane or whatever was serving. There's no point in putting Vietnam red dust if your thing's in Africa or like it's quite important to think about that. Yeah.
No, I haven't traveled much, but there's no red dust in Africa?
Not that I know of. I mean, you could use a pipette for this as well. Now, you could get a similar effect just by putting the white spirit straight on the powder, right? but when it dries, it'll literally just dust off. By adding this enamel into the mix, it's helping it grab onto the actual wheel, onto the part. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you don't want to be brushing this on because you'll be disturbing everything you've just made. Just dabbing's all right, and just that capillary action will just pull it all through into the powders. That's pretty much it. If you want to bulk it up even more at this stage, just get some powder on and just dust it on, and you'll just create a bit of volume. And it's a bit of a leap of faith, and you just have to trust me. It looks like crap now, but come tomorrow, it'll be like, oh my God, it's completely different, you know. And you'll end up with what we're seeing, which is why it was important that I put something together beforehand. The beauty of this too, if you come back the next day and you look at it and think, oh, it's not kind of what I thought, just wet a brush in the white spirit and just start to move it around. You've got a window with the enamels to manipulate it, but it will eventually dry. All right. Any questions on that, guys? No. It's it can be a bit of a pain in the neck working with pigments, but you get some really awesome results. So it's worth having a go. You've just got to have faith that it's actually going to come good in the end, because it looks like a dog's breakfast when you're doing it.
Question.
Yep.
Any tips for getting like texture or patterns? So for me, I want to do cars and get the mud spatter behind the rear wheels and that sort of thing. So
I'll
you
get to that one. Yep.
You get that in a certain line.
Yep.
Just wondering if you got any smells for doing that well.
So what I'll do now is look at bulking something up, making it a bit more voluminous, like a bit more muddy. So I'll chuck a bit of plaster in. Just I hope this was my plaster bag, right?
Yeah. Otherwise you're going to bad time to snort that.
Yeah. There's no sort of right or wrong mix here, because if it's thin, you can do things like washes with it, let it run round, you know, and it'll still have that grainy sort of earthy thing. I'll do the demo, but this is a feel thing. You really have to sort of have a go to understand what you're going to get. So I'm just putting the two different coloured pigments in with the plaster. It's just plaster, yep.
In the right suburbs, you could make a lot of money.
So I'm literally just going to mix this up and have a look at my consistency. So I would, it's kind of like a thick shape, but if I was at home, I'd probably get a little bit of fine dirt and gravel and put it in there and just bulk it out and make it a bit more earthy. So with our mix here, it's literally just start to build things up.
Did you mix enamel paint?
Yep. Yeah, I put a bit of the pigment, a bit of enamel paint, a little bit of the thinner, but I think I've thinned it down a little bit too much. But literally what you're seeing here is all we did on this side. And again, to bulk it up, you can literally just lay the brush. I probably shouldn't be using a wet brush because it doesn't really matter. Now the thing with this mix is we can start manipulating it with this white spirit as well. So if we, like if it was up here and we didn't want it, we can just start moving stuff around. And again, you just going to have a level fade here because it looks like a dog's breakfast, but she comes good. And again, we can use this this enamel mix if it looks like there's dry pigment here that's not sort of picking up. Literally just use that capillary action again just to help him grab. Yeah, absolutely. When it starts to dry, yeah, definitely can. But yeah, that is essentially what this has been cleaned up a little bit with the makeup sponge. So tomorrow, when it dries, I would try to keep it logical. Think about where the dirt's going to build up in the crevices and the edges and things. So I mean, we still might be able to move that around a little bit actually. It's been there for too long.
Now, on that, would you still put a flat clear on that?
Oh, you can, but it'll just suck it in. But yeah, a lot of the techniques now say don't put the flat clear in. Do this as your last thing because then you'll get. Sorry, I'm sort of jumping spot. The pigments will hold and stick better to a matte varnish than they will like on a gloss or something. So paint your model, matte varnish it, seal it, do all that, and then build your pigments, and then you're done. But that said, I do sometimes spray a matte varnish over the top, but it doesn't. It just sucks them in, and you don't fix the effect. So that's that. Literally, all this top of this hatch is just we've just thinned down. I'll just get a mix of this one. So I'm literally just mixing this pigment in with this white spirit and a little bit of the enamel paint. Is everyone following, or have I lost someone? All good?
Don't worry, it's on video.
All right.
Well, it's not exactly the same every time, because you're just trying to adjust for your effect.
Yep.
And it's just through working with it as to how much dipping you want to do.
Definitely. All I've done is just dusted this on. It's essentially the same as what I've done on the wheels, except all I've done here, just so the dust and everything sits more in the crevices and the things, is I've just worked it more with a makeup sponge at the end. Actually, I'll use this. Right. Chuck some dark. It just looks like an absolute soup now, but you really have to make sure your paintwork is in pretty good condition before you do this, because if there's any issues with the integrity of your paint, that white spirit will just destroy it. So yeah, and then literally that's just leaving that to dry now, and it will take easily 24 hours. And then we're going to just work it with the sponge. Think about where the crew's going to get in and out of the things, so I would make it clean around where they'd sit up on the back of the hatch. So that's that. Any questions? So what you were saying about the splatting of the mud before?
Yeah. So mud sprays.
So get a nice flat brush. I'm just trying to lighten this mix up a little bit, just so we can see it a bit easier. So this is just this muddy business that we've put all in here, but I've just thinned it down a little bit. and literally you can get your airbrush with nothing in it, just squirt it on it and it'll flick paint through. Or you can literally just watch your book there just in case. But we're literally just manipulating the brush. So I'll do something lighter. Again, this is going to dry lighter, so it's going to start looking like the other side looked. So there you go, take the spots up there. I do have the hairdryer there, so I'll see if I can get it to be quicker for you. Bladdering techniques work better, well, with layers. So start thinking, you know, you do your lighter layers going down into your darker layers. So I do a big area of light, mid-tones, and then all the wet and new mud, which sort of be down on the bottom of the
red one's already like that. Yeah, red one's
I just to speed it up. I sometimes do it, but it's so much better if you can. Yeah, I mean you can see it's sort of starting to dry on top already, and the splats on the side. So you would think about where the wheels are turning and throwing the mud up on the back of the thing. But what I would further do to start blending that through is use my flat brush with moisture with white spirit, and then if you just start dragging it down, because the rain and stuff is going to pull this effect down. So you don't want to be taking off, you just want to be making it as random as you can.
That really shows that you use the white pigment.
You what?
That method really shows that you use the white pigment for snow. Like that whitewash for snow.
Yeah. This side's been butchered because I loaded the top up so much, but yeah, you can see it's. Now, if we layer that up with lighter tones, then going to the darker tones, I mean that's just going to look like mud splattered up the side of the thing. So it's really quite quick and easy. Let's see if I can get this to dry a little bit more. So this may not work, but we'll give it a go anyway. You can see where I put that darker enamel paint and the lighter paint, like you know. But it's really well. I hope it's very easy. We'll see. Just to kind of, it's still wet. Even just dabbing with the makeup sponge can help blend things together for you. But essentially what we want to do is kind of try and just make sure it's all going to stay in the crevices. It just hasn't dried properly. But I think you guys get the idea. And just to you can just blend it in, soften it all up with that white spirit again. If you don't like it, you can just load yourself up with white spirit, get a cotton and just clean it off. You're never going to get it all off, but you can certainly get a lot of it. Yeah, so there you go. You can see actually that's really starting to present on the, like these where I've dragged it down. They need to be fixed. Can you see there's like really obvious lines there? That doesn't look real. So I would be getting the makeup sponge and literally just looking to remove them. There we go, we've got a nice little sort of natural one coming in from the top. The plaster? Oh, geez, Bunnings, you sell it in craft shop anywhere. Yeah, it's just plaster powders. Yeah. A lot of the kits that they sell commercially like these have got a little thing of plaster that you pay a lot for. I think it's a couple of bucks. I think even Woolworths might sell it. So yeah, so there you go. So we got rid of those real dominant strips that were there. So as long as the integrity of your base coat is okay, pass it around, might have a little bit of pus.
What do you use to seal in?
It'll dry. I wouldn't seal that.
Sorry, what have you used as your finish on the model before you started wet on?
That's actually just Mission Models paint, straight out of the bottle. Yeah.
And you haven't put a lacquer, not a lacquer,
No.
satin coat or anything on?
No. If it was Vallejo, I'd probably consider it. It doesn't stick as well as that Mission Models paint does.
They're acrylics.
Yeah. But they're a little bit different. You've got to put wetting agent in, and they spray a lot thicker, and they just seem to grab a lot better. Now, right, the one thing, the easiest thing to represent metal, so like gun barrels, things like that, is our gunmetal pigment. Everyone should have this in their stash because it's so easy to use. I mean, look, there's other ways to use. You can use a lead pencil, you can do lots of stuff. This is nice and easy. I use a makeup sponge. Literally just load the makeup sponge up with the gunmetal pigment. Now I've painted that just like a grey colour in here, and literally if you just start buffing, you get that metallic sort of look going. Right, so I haven't done it, but like on gun barrels, I didn't even paint that black, but you can see it sort of starts to look like it's got a bit of metallic sheen on it already. So it's great. This is like I used that effect on that track there to give it that metallic sort of look.
How durable is that? How durable?
Because you're polishing it in so hard, it's not like just dusting the powders. Yeah. It probably would come off over time, but I would do this as the last thing I do.
Right.
So I'm not going to touch the model from then.
I've started to use that stuff as well, and as an alternative to your makeup applicator, the guy from AK Interactive, Daniel Zambardi, who does all the AK books and so forth, he had a video that I saw on his YouTube channel, and you can buy it off eBay for like $2. You get a pack of 5 silicon rubber,
Those rubber things,
applicators. They look like brushes, but they're actually like they look like little wedges and different shapes. And I just had a look on eBay for a pack of 5 from Hong Kong, $2.
Yeah, I think these were like, I paid 50 cents for like 20 or something.
But the thing I like about the silicon rubber ones, I actually use it on the P40 gun barrels. So I painted them matte black, and I glued them in, and then I just dip this little applicator with like a wedge point on it into the pigment, and then you just gently rub it on.
It's exactly, yeah, it's a bit more precise.
So
I actually found the best thing is your fingertip with this. But you walk around with a black finger for days.
Try and use my finger on a gun barrel.
No, you'd be surprised how accurate. And especially tracks, because all the high points on the tracks will weather and wear, right? So these tracks aren't painted, but literally if you start, you're going to make me do it, aren't you? I've got too much other goop going on here, but if you literally just
Do you find that stuff's shinier than like an HP pencil? Graphite?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know.
I think the same. I
think so, yeah.
That stuff's just a more metallic.
If you get your base colour right, like I find a black grey, and that on top is like just awesome.
Right.
But this isn't sort of working so well now. I've said that. Mind you, it is a rubber band track, and
sticks and different hardnesses.
Yeah.
They clearly, it's like a pencil. It's all graphite.
Well, it's just a granite pencil, really.
Yeah, and it's like that stuff compressed. It's really good.
But you can use this like on your wheels as well, like on your steel wheels.
Yeah.
And you ever use pastel?
Well, it's essentially the same thing.
No, it is. It's just that one's kind of more chalky than the other. I think pastel
Yeah,
This is
finer.
looser.
It's more like a powder rather
Yeah.
than a...
This is just a lot more refined, yeah. So I haven't really painted these wheels to show this appropriately, but that's how I would get a steel wheel. Is you just paint the rim in a dark grey, and then if you just start buffing away with this stuff, it'll look like a steel wheel. And it's really good on like for the edges of stuff as well. It's good on Russian armour. For some reason, it works really well with the greens, and gives that linish sort of look. I'm sort of dribbling now, but yeah, I would buy some of that. You guys, like just gun barrels, even. It's just so easy. Paint it black. Get it on your. You can see what it does to your finger. Get it on your fingers and just rub the gun barrels, and you look at it and go, man, that was unreal. Because all the deep spots are still black, and all the high spots are all this metallic sheen. And it's like it's awesome.
Those graphite sticks do exactly the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's just.
You got no choice. You got to hold on to them.
I just find with that makeup sponge and the things Gary was using, you just get a broader coverage. With a stick or a pencil, you kind of stuck to a flat edge, or that with the sponge you
Even
can
the
kind
brush
of.
doesn't really... You can't... Like a normal brush.
Our brush won't do anything. You need to buff that product. Yeah. So yeah, any questions, anyone? I think that's probably about me.
You ever have any trouble with the acetone melting your plastic?
No acetone.
Oh, no, that's
It's not acetone, that's white syrup.
white spirits.
Yeah, so the only time I would use acetone is with like some of the metallic type paints. Like I wouldn't use it with alkyd, but like that's what I would use acetone for. That kind of that extreme metal range from AK, and but no, So does it melt the plastic? I don't know because I don't really use it.
Especially like that wet mud.
Yeah, well, look, you can achieve that wet mud look. There's, by putting gloss varnish in the mix, and there's commercially available, wet effects, which is really, the syrupy gloss, So and you do a dark mud and a gloss thing, and it'll look like wet mud. And then if you start doing that spraying technique with the flat, that's so easy to do. You just have to be careful because it makes a hell of a mess. And to control that, you can mask things off. Like if you don't want any spray to go up on the turret, just put a bit of paper there and just flick it away. If you're not happy with it, load a flat brush up with white spirit. Just drag it down. Just don't scrub it. Drag it down because if it leaves a little bit there, it'll look like rain marks have been coming down the model, and you probably end up looking good. But if you use this mix with the enamels, with the pigment powders, you've got that window to correct stuff. So if you're not happy with it, just start working on it.
Very good.
Very good, thank you.
Now I'll try and post some pictures of